Hi, everyone. Welcome to Pondering God. My name is Ron Bay Jr. Today's episode is titled Playing God. I recently read an article in American Thinker titled Peter Thiel, AI, and the Antichrist, written by Faye Vachel. I've read several of her articles, and if you're interested, you could find it in the American Thinker journal. So, in the article, she references the words and thoughts of Peter Thiel, whom I had to look up, although I'd heard the name before, I wasn't sure who he was. But he's a billionaire who has been speaking to different audiences about the potential dangers of artificial intelligence, or AI. The title intrigued me, since while pondering God myself, I too have thought about AI and where technology is leading us, and about the Antichrist, although not in connection with one another. After reading the article, I first thought of a quote from the movie Jurassic Park, where there's a character named Ian Malcolm, played by Jeff Goldblum, who arrives on the island. He's got a scientific background, and he sees what the scientists have done with these dinosaurs on the island. He's very skeptical and very concerned. And he has this to say: your scientists were so preoccupied with whether or not they could that they didn't stop to think if they should, which is the whole idea about man playing God. So after reading the article, I came away with a different perspective from the author, who seems to tie AI in with the Antichrist. I see them as two different things altogether. The author does hold a Master of Divinity from Princeton Theological Seminary, and she surely knows more about the Bible than I do. But although I agree with most of what she wrote, I will share a contrary viewpoint here, or maybe not a contrary viewpoint, but a different viewpoint. First, I want to look at the Antichrist, and Antichrist as presented in Scripture, and then I'll get into the AI portion of my thoughts. The AI, or the Antichrist and Antichrist, the Antichrist and Antichrist as Scripture depicts them, seem to be two separate things. And so in 1 John chapter 2, verse 18, John writes this: "Children, it is the last hour, and just as you heard that Antichrist is coming, even now many Antichrists, plural, have arisen. From this we know that it is the last hour." And then he jumps down in verses 22 or 23, 22 and 23, and says, "Who is the liar but the one who denies that Jesus is the Christ? This is the Antichrist, the one who denies the Father and the Son. Whoever denies the Son does not have the Father. The one who confesses the Son has the Father also." And then in 2 John, verse 7, he says this about the Antichrist: "For many deceivers have gone out into the world, those who do not acknowledge Jesus Christ as coming in the flesh. This is the deceiver and the Antichrist." So per John's descriptions, the Antichrists, plural, have some things in common. They don't believe in Jesus as Son of God. They don't believe in his divinity. They don't believe in his resurrection. They deny all these things, and that's what John says makes them the Antichrists. So when he wrote these words, he was speaking for the now, for his day and age, but also for a future time. And while reading those verses, I thought of several religions that came along much later than Christianity and fit the description of Antichrist as depicted by John. Some are adversarial to Christianity, while others try to co-opt the faith. Mormons, for example, deny that the Father, Son, and Spirit are one, contrary to Jesus' own words. Jehovah's Witnesses deny the Trinity and also deny Jesus' divinity. Islam, the big one, denies that Jesus is God's Son. They deny the resurrection and view Jesus, or as they call him, Isa, as a great prophet, which I find contradictory at best. Speaking of AI, here's Google's AI definition of a great prophet. A great prophet is a divinely inspired individual who serves as a spokesperson for God, delivering his messages and guidance to people or a nation. They are known for their moral authority, spiritual leadership, and often perform miracles. A great prophet can also be a figure of profound truth who inspires people to understand the divine, solve national crises, and uphold principles of justice and upright living. So the key things in that definition of a great prophet fit Jesus very well. Principles of justice, upright living, truth, moral authority, and performing miracles. How can Islam view Jesus as a great prophet, one who speaks profound truth and has moral authority, and yet deny the things he taught about himself? Either he's a great prophet or he isn't. With their denials of Jesus' teachings, they make him out to be a liar, which contradicts the great prophet designation. Per John's definitions, each of these religions fit the description of Antichrist. But then there's the Antichrist, capital A, as described in Daniel, 2 Thessalonians, and Revelation, which seem to indicate a singular individual who will come at the end times and attempt to lead everyone away from God. Here's how Paul describes this man or this individual in 2 Thessalonians chapter 2. Do not let anyone deceive you in any way, for that day will not come unless the rebellion comes first, and the man of lawlessness is revealed, the son of destruction, who opposes, who exalts himself over every so-called God or object of worship, so that he sits down in the temple of God, proclaiming that he himself is God. So that's my thoughts and view on the Antichrist and Antichrists. And I don't believe AI is or will be the Antichrist as described by Daniel, Paul, and John. However, AI could certainly be the vehicle by which the Antichrist arrives. Christians have been warned. If you know the truth, if you know God and his Son, you won't be fooled by the counterfeit that is destined to come. So that's my thoughts on Antichrist and the Antichrist as described in Scripture. And now I'm going to get into the AI portion of the article and my thoughts on where AI and mankind is headed. So what we have with technology in the hands of fallible humans can be dangerous. Here's a key paragraph from the article regarding the potential of artificial intelligence, or AI. If machines can do all the thinking and decision-making for us humans, we are free from all restraints of rationality and conscience and can do whatever we want. Humans will have moved beyond accountability to anyone or anything. We will need no teachers or mentors. We will not need one another. We will not need institutions, and we certainly will not need God. If you combine megalomaniac billionaires with atheistic scientists and technology, you have a toxic mix on a path to destruction. With technology, and AI specifically, we have the ability to do many things. But as the Ian Malcolm quote above asks, should we? That's where morality and man playing God intersect. Just because you can do something, is it right? What things should be left to God, and where should we as humans stay in our own lanes? Today we have many of the aforementioned scientists and uber wealthy who would certainly fit the words Ezekiel addressed to another powerful human being from his day and time. And this particular individual was the ruler of Tyre. Back in those days, men who had those powerful positions of king, ruler, leader, they often saw themselves as gods. So here are Ezekiel's words to this ruler of Tyre. In the pride of your heart you say, I am a god. I sit on the throne of a god in the heart of the seas. But you are a mere mortal and not a god, though you think you are as wise as a god. So for my thoughts here on AI, I will use Bill Gates as the prototypical megalomaniac, as Mr. Gates seems to put himself out there a lot and share his views, and many times been recorded in different speeches that he's given and efforts that he's been involved with. So Mr. Gates seems to be bored because of his wealth, fame, and power, which his power comes as a result of his wealth. He's moved out of his area of expertise, and he's now delving into the realm of the Almighty. First, regarding the population and how to control it, as if Mr. Gates can control the population of the globe. Mr. Gates said this at a TED Talk in 2010. The world today has 6.8 billion people. That's headed up to about 9 billion. Now, if we do a really great job on new vaccines, which I don't really imagine how new vaccines are going to help control the population. That's a scary thought. Healthcare, when I see that combination of words, I think assisted suicide or euthanasia, which are now legal in Canada with 16,500 deaths in 2024 alone. Reproductive health services, when I hear those words, I think of abortion and sterilization. We could lower that by perhaps 10 or 15%. But there we see an increase of about 1.3 billion. Bill Gates assumes the role of God and wants to control the Earth's population. I wonder by what criteria he determines how many is too many. Secondly, being a part of the climate change scaremongers, he recently changed his tune and said that the climate isn't an existential threat to mankind after all. I wonder if he let God know. But at the same time, he recently proposed a technology to combat Earth's warming. By the way, Bill, what is the Earth's ideal temperature? And how do you measure it? Here's a headline from a recent article in Forbes. A Bill Gates venture aims to spray dust into the atmosphere to block the sun. What could go wrong? Indeed, what could go wrong? It is God, not man, who controls the weather, the depth of the oceans, clouds in the sky, the rotation of the earth around the sun. Man's hubris creates delusion. Thirdly, Bill Gates, as well as numerous others, including Elon Musk, envision a future with AI replacing mankind. Here's a statement attributed to Mr. Gates from an article in Fortune, as well as several other sources, where he said that humans will no longer be needed for most things. Humans will no longer be needed for most things. Robots will replace man. Man will create man in his own image. I wonder if God would approve. The quote below from author Carl Tickreib should be warning enough of where we're headed with men like Bill Gates in positions of power and influence. Here's the quote. The history of man playing God is one of deepest subjugation and destruction. We proclaim the good, but are unable to break from that which is evil. We are incapable of resisting the allure to become a God made in our fallen image, from his book titled Game of Gods. When man plays God, think Jurassic Park, there is never a happy ending, especially for man. However, I don't believe God will allow these things to proceed to the end imagined and desired by these impostors. A passage from Genesis leads me to believe that God will eventually step in and put man in his place. This is what happened when mankind got together and, with existing technology of the day, tried to achieve divine ends, from Genesis chapter 11, verses 3 and 4. And they said to one another, this is the people on the earth, come, let us make bricks and burn them thoroughly. And they used brick for stone, and they used tar for mortar. And they said, come, let us build for ourselves a city, and a tower whose top will reach into heaven, and let us make for ourselves a name, lest we be scattered abroad over the face of the whole earth. God saw what they were doing and said, behold, they are one people, and they all have the same language. And this is what they began to do. And now nothing which they purpose to do will be impossible for them. From Genesis chapter 11, verse 6. Then God stepped in. Come, let us go down and there confuse their language, that they may not understand one another's speech. So the Lord scattered them abroad from there over the face of the whole earth, and they stopped building the city. From Genesis chapter 11, verses 7 and 8. Bill Gates is one of many powerful people who advocate for world government and a global regulatory body. In other words, these men want control. And if you read his previous statements, you can see where this global governance would take us if they have their own way. The truth is, man has been trying to sit on God's throne since the day Eve fell for the serpent's deception in the garden. But playing God is the ultimate delusion. Rather than enjoying what God has given us and being grateful for his benevolence, mankind believes he is superior. We continue to tell God that he's mistaken, that we know better how to order the universe. But there's a day of reckoning headed our way. God will only tolerate our wickedness for so long. Jesus asked the Father to forgive them, for they know not what they do. Ain't that the truth? All right, everyone. Thank you for joining me today on Pondering God. Today's episode titled Playing God, and I hope you got something out of it. And I look forward to seeing you next time, and have a great day.